out of a radio pursuit with Riverwest Radio, riverwestradio.com. So over 5 years ago, both Marcus Hart and I were running shows, getting a start there with Riverwest Radio. Marcus Hart with the Transform You Live show, and I partnered up with our Captain Adam, and he and I buddied up to bring the Riverwest Radio ability, MKE Now, for our Milwaukee audiences, and simulcasting over SoundCloud for that live streaming experience. And with the audio files there, you can actually check that out if you're curious. Go to riverwestradio.com, go to shows, and right at the top of the list is Ability MKE Now, and you can see it's showing hosted by various hosts. We had for 4 years, we had Nikki Frank and Dawn Green, and we also had my Giselle relative, Jory Brzezinski from hopeandstill.org. Check it out, hopeandstill.org, an oasis for people living with chronic pain. So here we are, and we're at World of Ability because Marcus Hart, our podcast mogul, was nice enough to send this platform right from Riverwest Radio. We were producing Ability MKE, and our collaborations went to the point of that we had ideas beyond what was provided or what you see at Riverwest Radio. Obviously, what we're doing here is above and beyond what Riverwest Radio is doing. So we just ventured to have our own collaborative work product, and we created this World of Ability podcast show that had a special episode to get it started, a kickoff show, and that was Sunday, July 26th, 2020, on the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so that got us going, and then we continued from that Saturday forward here at World of Ability podcast show. And then in the months ahead, we added on Compassionate Citizens podcast, and we were helping Anna Maria Bliven, the founder of Prosperity Pathways and Onward and Upward, to start the Prosperity Pathways radio show and podcast. And so we still continue that podcast here at Transforming Media Network. Every Wednesday we produce it, and it goes out there, like I say, at various other times, so that audiences have plenty of chance to catch all of the conversation that we start right here at Transform You. And with all this collaboration, all these shows, we have packaged it together into an all-autonomous World of Ability podcast network. So this is all just getting started, folks. This is a game changer. This is evolving into setting more and more people up with shows here at the World of Ability Podcast Network. And we have that platform with Transform You that's right here. And so we have versatility and a way to have a custom arrangement with all of this broadcasting. And so we're going to go to Barbara. Barbara, I'm wondering if you can make some commentary in terms of, how you got started with us here at Transforming Media Network, and our beginnings through Helen Stuckey-Risden Weaver with Wellness Weavers, and kind of what your journey has been here, being with us on these shows. What do you thinking, Barbara?
Oh, actually, and you're on mute right now, hon. Can't hear you.
Sorry.
There we go.
Sorry, guys. I thought it was off. Yeah, so much goodness. The World of Ability. How I got connected with it. I went to something it was a conference for applied therapeutic humor, and people that were starting to realize the importance of humor and are being able to work together and to heal and to play together. And when I started learning about time banking, where people, instead of putting money in the bank, they put time into helping someone else, and then they have time to get help that they need. And something that I thought I really need to talk about today, because more and more I'm seeing how important this is, especially people living with pain, is the idea that, when you're really focusing on a movie sometimes, or even more when you're being creative, when you're creating something, when you're working on something, when you're singing even, or learning, in that moment, it's like you're not really in your body. And when we're doing yoga, we're trying to get to this place where we're one with everything that feels good. And we know that anything other than that doesn't need to be so much the reality. And I see that again and again. I see that again and again in my life, And I think probably a lot of people do. And I think it's good to start talking about that, and to start talking about the great importance of people connecting with other people. I know people that go to NA meetings, and it starts with saying, went to doctors, went to medicine, went to religion. But what really saved people's lives was that sense that someone else who could understand what they were going through, what they're feeling, cares. And in that connection between two people caring about each other's feelings, there's so much power, I think, energy. So that, with the loftier thoughts that we start having and realizing, we can actually get the energy to make those goals come true. There's so many good things happening on this planet right now that need to be communicated and need to be worked with. And I'm really excited to be part of Disability Now show, because I see it as something so wonderfully beautiful. It's just starting to bloom, and it's going to make a big difference in the world as we start working from here. Yeah. Anyone that can relate to that, but I see that again and again, and it's wonderful. And the whole idea of laughter yoga is something that I do, because this was applied therapeutic humor. It's so interesting that you're laughing, and you just feel silly, and you're laughing with friends, and then you realize, wow, the pain's gone, that I didn't know what, how to handle. And I see how going in the ocean, and instantly, it's such a strong doctor. It's such a powerful doctor. And we need to stop giving all this power to doctors and lawyers to fix us. So we need to start realizing that together we're something really beautiful, and we can touch onto that place and cultivate it. And it's about us just starting to getting to know you, getting to know all about you. So I'd be interested to hear what anyone might say about what I was saying, and how they understand it and can explain it and relate. Kurt?
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. So last Saturday, I was at what is called an integral conference on Zoom. It's actually at home, but using the computer to participate in an all-day conference called the Integral Conference by the Autism Society of South Central Wisconsin. And actually right now, as we're producing this show, our podcast engineer is also in a planning meeting, kind of turning the corner now from having done this year's rendition of the Integral Conference to getting the debriefing going on last week's event for what are the insights now as we look ahead already for the 2022 edition of the Integral Conference. And the talks is we'd hope that we can do an in-person event for such a thing, and I'm curious if there's going to be any also virtual connection as well, that it'd be a hybrid event, or if they might take the concept, if they're in person, it would be only available in person. So all things are being discussed as of today forward. And
I'm going to ask
so
some silly questions, like what integral means.
Integral is an acronym that within there, I believe autism is the A of integral, and I do not have that memorized, but maybe we can bring that out within the next 40 minutes. Maybe with Sue and Emily, I can get some assistance, and we can get that before the show's over, but it's an acronym. And I think the acronym works because you run with that word integral and just say, well, yeah, it gets you thinking about you're coming to the conference for all the integral interests, that we have, or to be an integral member of society and, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's meaning behind the word for the group, but they also are able to take that meaningful word and make it an acronym. So I'll work on that and get that into our show content one way or another, but I don't have it memorized, so I'll get to work on that. But
Kurt,
other
I can
than
add
that,
in now. I did look this up. So the integral, you're correct that it does stand for something. It stands for interactive networking, talks, and education for growing autism legitimacy. So that, let me read that one more time. So the Integral Adult Autism Conference, the acronym is Interactive Networking, Talks, and Education for Growing Autism Legitimacy. And they do have a website. If you want to find out more information on that directly, it's integralautism.org, integralautism.org. So back to you, Kurt.
Thank you.
all right, thanks. There you go. Ready helpers on the way. So, yeah, I'm in an interesting situation here. I'm in Wausau, Wisconsin in my car, and so I have my daughter here helping, with running the phone while I'm attending to traffic, and so we're producing a show while we're making our way to the subdivision of our friends that are hosting us and producing the show. But in terms of the Integral Conference, I was finding it interesting in the chat of the Zoom meeting. People were responding to the idea of cancel culture. So the gist of cancel culture, that again off the top of my head that I will give, is the general idea is people show up to do something in a group, and it's basically that they're canceled, which means that they don't get to participate or they're not included. They're like the L of integral is legitimate. I believe it was. So the idea is this idea of being illegitimate or something like that is kind of tied into this cancel culture. So what it means is that people that don't relate to the person, or a group that does not relate to the person, just doesn't really create an inclusive way at all. Like, does not include them and basically rejects them. And when you look at definitions, included in the description is ostracizing or ostracism. So this is something that is going on all over the world, and it's a real disability advocacy alert, basically, as far as I'm concerned, because that really is a striking characterization, because it really takes us away from a humanitarian approach to really say that we have culture and customs, practices, behavior, and routines and rituals, all of this to say people with disabilities or other demographics, it's not unique to the disability community, but definitely is applied to the disability advocacy. And so it's a profound human behavior, human characteristic that means that there's a huge gaping hole for improvement. So it's not a good thought, but the idea is that if it's surprising people and just really not what we have in mind, we as a collective have the ability to act upon this and to think of integration, inclusion, accessibility, and learning from people with disabilities. What is the best way for us and to let that person have a voice, to do the opposite of cancel culture, and be absolutely hospitable, shower people with love, and like you said, Barbara, getting to know you, show that you want to get to know a person with disability. What do you think about that, Barbara?
Oh, I think that's I'm so excited about this show and meeting you, because I was at a rainbow gathering. If anyone's familiar with that, sometimes 30,000 people have shown up at a national forest. This is a Hopi Indians rainbow, where they said sometime in the future, Mother Earth is going to be suffering, her plants and her animals, but don't worry, because there's going to come a great tribe, many nations, many colors. This great rainbow gathering is going to come and heal the planet. And I'm at this gathering, and something about me sometimes lets people come up and talk to me. And there was this young man, young to me, probably in his 30s, and he was trying to tell me how he's never been diagnosed correctly. And he understands that. He understands, the part of him that's still, like a 5-year-old. But he had this letter that he wrote to a lawyer. And he was saying, he'd always been put in special classes. And he was saying, all right, you maybe are looking forward to your retirement and you're so excited, where you're going to go and all the fun you're going to have, and, with the wife and the kids, but you got a disease, and all of a sudden it's making those plans not be able to happen. So if you could understand who I am and what I know and what I can figure out, and you could help write a letter that would get me into a university coming out of, all these special classes. He said, I could have found the cure for what was going to hold you back, and you could have your wonderful retirement. Will you help me get into a university? And people just were not taking him seriously, but I could so understand, and I think, Kurt, you said you can too. And I was working one time with people who were juvenile delinquents. I can say that. I don't know how politically correct that is. And then I was working with people who are under the umbrella of mental retardation. And we had an older man who had cerebral palsy. So he ended up, in this place called Victory Living. And one of my students had cerebral palsy. And I found out that when I got these two groups together, like when I tried to take the Victory Living guys to Grand Prix Racerama, because I said, it's silly, I'm the only one who can drive. And they would show me how smart they were, around money and things like that. They running circles around me sometime. And so I said, okay, everyone's going to get to drive. We're going to go to Grand Prix. We're going to get these, bumper cars, these race cars. And my one guy just got so excited that he started like jumping over the barriers, And so I was told, and these were adults, but I was told you have to get some responsible adults to drive for them. And that's the only way they're coming back. And I go and I get the Nolan Ocean View private school kids. And I say, I need you to help me help these other people. And it was so wonderful getting these two groups together and seeing how much they could heal each other, because the kids, they couldn't complain about their lives so much anymore, and they could be helpful. And Victory Living, these guys, people like with Down syndrome, just so full of love and patience. And what I found, and the two people who had cerebral palsy, the way they connected with each other so intimately, so fast, because they could understand what it was like to be in that other person's body. And this is what people say in NA too, to see someone else who understands. So I uh, so what happened before my eyes was I could see the connection between this teenager and this older man, and it was something that was very beautiful. And I could see how the students getting to understand the Victory Living people, how when they would go bowling, someone could throw a ball and it could go in the gutter, and they would say, look at that, Billy, it's going further down. It didn't go that far last time. And they would be encouraging each other. And my students who thought they were being clever by making fun of each other, could see the power in that. It was so nice to be able to bring people together. And yeah, people need to have a voice. We're not seeing each other yet. We're not, what you're saying, we're not seeing the abilities that we all have, and the idea is that when we start seeing the strengths in each other and applauding that, and we start having real compassion for the weaknesses in each other, and that's everybody, everybody, right, has some kind of a disability right now holding us back from, being all that we can be together. I love the expression, I am me because we are. And in Chinese, I think I shared this before, the character for a human being is like these two stick figures that are leaning against each other, because the idea is if one should fall, then the other one goes down too, because we're so much more interconnected than we realize. And that can be such a beautiful thing. Then the world becomes, more fruitful, more colorful, more fragrant, as we start seeing the different sensitivities and appreciating what people have to offer. And and the idea of like laughter yoga as powerful healers, there's all kinds of ways to get people to unite and to start loving each other. We have these songs, what the world needs now is love, sweet love, and love, love, love. And I'm sure you could think of a bunch of them right now. Love makes the world go round. Love makes the world go round. But people feel funny. We're not affectionate with each other yet. We're so far from that, right? To have a world that can be affectionate. And I know that there can be so much healing in a touch. I've seen where if someone expresses compassion with the physical touch at the same time, that can help people release trauma that they're holding on to. And we're starting to learn how trauma like snowballs up as we go through things. And right, and I can keep on talking, but I'd like to hear you somewhere. I'd love to hear anyone else on the line that to know I'm being heard and understood and appreciated, because we all so want to be appreciated, right? We want to feel appreciated. I think that's
yeah, I would agree. And we have somebody here who felt pretty appreciated yesterday. Sue, you want to describe that a little bit? What was your day like yesterday that, and tell me if I'm correct, that you felt a little appreciated?
I did. You went out of your way to make something fun happen with the not World of Ability. That's today. Yesterday, we had Happy Neighborhood Project, and it was the worldwide event of it. And there were, I believe, over 150 people on that Zoom call. And it was a great event in itself. And it just so happened it was my birthday yesterday. And that was the first day that, thank you. That was the first day that the group had decided, or the leader of the group, Edwin, is the chief happiness officer and he had decided to do I believe it was the very first time celebrating folks' birthdays. So during every Friday, they have this worldwide event happening that anybody is welcome to participate in. And he decided to say, let's celebrate birthdays. All the November birthdays would be celebrated actually yesterday. And since it was actually my birthday, I know he and Kurt know each other well. And Edwin called me out in front of the whole crew there to wish me a happy birthday and to make sure I was joining the event that his wife leads on Friday evenings, this Pata Pata fun event where you can, it's basically just some kind of a music or dance party or however you want to say. You can send in requests, they will play whatever music you want, and it's a lot of fun. That's the whole point, is to be happy, have fun, and it was nice to be celebrated like that. So I know Kurt went out of his way to make that all come together, and that was I did feel very appreciated, and I appreciate that you did that.
There you go, my pleasure.
And it's so funny that we could find each other in, different parts of, well, not the planet yet, the United States, right? Pretty much. But that, we can find each other in different time zones and, and feel grateful that there's someone helping you feel appreciated, right? Helping you feel special.
Yeah, with a group like that across the country, I even just got a birthday card in the mail from a new friend through the Happy Neighborhood Project that lives in Australia. So it was kind of a nice surprise to get that from him too. So sometimes it's little things that make a big difference for people. And I think that's something that's easily forgotten, that it doesn't take much to make people feel good and feel appreciated. And if people can just take that extra second to say thank you, or it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Difference.
Even a smile, hello, I've seen that before. Makes you feel like, oh, I'm home.
Yeah, actually, I was just reading something here too that said if you meet somebody who does not have a smile, give them yours.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. So that idea of birthdays, that's something to really think about, because what happens on people's birthdays can be very indicative of what is going on in their life. So if we take people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, let's think about with what we do, like let's say that meeting, let's say that worldwide main event on Zoom with all those people on there, a business environment. Where do we have the acumen that if it's a person with an intellectual or developmental disability, that they would be able to have the same type of opportunity like Sue got yesterday? Do we give the stage to people who are deaf or hard of hearing, blind or visually impaired, people with physical disabilities? Is there an equity there? Now, as soon as he asks the question, we know it's true that every demographic does have that opportunity, but the question that we ask, is it proportional or is it disproportionate? Is it, just a fraction, a small fraction, like, 1, 2, 3%, maybe even, of the type of opportunity for people with disabilities as compared to their counterparts that are those of us that don't have a disability or don't report one or aren't recognized for one. So that is something to think about, that as we each celebrate our birthdays, what is the opportunity for people with disabilities to celebrate their birthday in a comparable way? Or is there systemic oppression at play, that some of the things that some of us out in the community, society are able to do on our birthdays that people with disabilities are not? Now, for sure, whatever happens, there are things that happen in relationships that whether we're able to do some of these things or not, there's still, like, say, throw a big birthday bash or something for, 40 people and, pay for it, being the person running the birthday party or whatever. And right now where we're going is it's in a family of friends of ours, there's a birthday being celebrated, And that's where I am right now. A birthday party is going on, and I'm producing this show before I go in by our friends. Our daughter is in there already playing with the kids and doing that kind of stuff. So I know what I did. I just left the house and I just got up here and we're able to do all this stuff. But for many people with disabilities, it's a lot more complicated than that. I left from the Milwaukee area to go up to central Wisconsin, and we're able to just, very proficiently do that. And, there's a lot of people with disabilities that don't have the resources to do it. And it's not that they don't have the resources because of what they're not willing to do. It's a lack of resources because the population of people, the decision makers, the figureheads, the politicians and whatever, we're not thinking this way, that we are creating a barrier, a financial barrier and a resource barrier for people with disabilities. So it's something to really think about. And the thing that really got me going again is, the idea of water skiing. My story will always be that it was 8 years ago, realizing that, Sue and myself and our daughter are able to water ski 2 or 3 days a week with our beloved club. And we have a friend who at that point was not permitted to be out there on that particular night. And so that created that insight to say, wow, when our friends that we love dearly are doing this, what does that really say about the world that we live in? That there is this distribution of privilege. There is a bias to who gets the privilege and who doesn't. So this is a real conversation right here at the World of Ability podcast show. And this is in the heart of what Marcus Hart is trying to do with us all here in Transforming Media Network, because we all have the opportunity to transform our minds and to make changes for ourselves, to be the change that we want to see in the world. So this is what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to be the change that I want to see, and I want to get this out there in conversations, interactions, and exchanges to create a narrative so that this becomes the mindset through which people decide what they're going to do or not each and every day. The lives of people with disabilities are 365 days a year. It's not this, I do a nice annual event every year and I can hang my hat on that I'm now a person who practices integration. Somebody who thoroughly practices integration, has that happening every hour of every day. And so that's the transformation I'm going through. And that's what I invite everybody to go through. I tell the story about how 5 years ago was way different than today. 10 years ago, for me, was way different than today. 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I try to unravel the story within a 20-year time frame, and then to let 20 years ago represent what was happening pretty closely anyway for the 20 years previous as well, and to look at when we talked to Anna Maria Bliven, who's the founder of Prosperity Pathways and Onward and Upward, like I was mentioning earlier. She talked to me last year, 2020, that the way I tell this story, she's saying, you're telling me about a Kurt Roscoff 1.0. And then she's saying, I'm coming to understand that I've come to meet Kurt Roscoff 2.0. And so I try to really crystallize this for people, because this possibility in my life was delivered by, gifted by, and in the presence of people with disabilities. People with disabilities made all this possible in my life. So I look at the people in my life who happen to have a disability as compared to all the people in my life who don't identify with a disability or aren't identified as a person with a disability, that if you compare, I feel I've been given more empowerment by people with disabilities than conversely the counterparts. Did you guys hear all that?
Yeah, and I would love to tell a really quick story of coming into, it was a community center, and I'm watching the way this boy, he was about 8 years old, maybe 9 years old, the way he was looking at his mother with so much love. There was just so very much love coming from him. And I knew right away, and I asked her, how's he doing in school? And that he was someone, the mom's all, he's, he has these disabilities, right? And I thought, no, it's just the part of him that really is so developed is the part of him that can feel love, that knows love is so, it was so clear to me. And then the other parts need to be developed, and we do. We're different from each other. We're developing differently. And there was another word for, people who are developing, right? So did you hear me?
All right. Yep, we hear you. I just was shut off here a little bit because had to have a big update on the party, and I was trying to carry two conversations at once, so I apologize for that. But
about being happy. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, so, well, I guess I want to come in here to kind of give a little backdrop on what's going on in my weeks aside from doing these shows. And one of the things we're enjoying is that a few days a week, Onward and Upward, again, founded by Anna Marie Bliven, a nonprofit designated and dedicated to responding to people who are experiencing house insecurity, home insecurity, homelessness, houselessness, getting us in the direction of the basics, food, shelter, and clothing, type of thoughts. And so with these meetings, we have really bridged off of Anna Maria's devotion as a veteran, that we're really taking the few months ahead to really make a mark in the veteran community. And so when you look at veteran services, what we've determined for us is that we find it the most important to respond to this issue of veteran suicide. So we're in this work to save lives. And where we are is that in the bunch of years previous, there's been great work creating awareness of the statistic around the loss of lives of veterans to suicide. And so the statistic has been, and it's the well-known number of 22. So 22 is out there to really draw people to this topic, because it's been shared that 22 veterans a day lose their life to suicide. And so the number has gone the wrong way. So kind of what's been happening while this number is getting even more well known, it's actually grown. It's grown to, I'm hearing more of 27 veterans a day today lose their life to suicide. So now what are we to do? I think it's for all of us to understand that if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting the same results. So if we want the number to go down, to get back to 22, and then to keep going down from there, like it was sought out to be a bunch of years ago, we need to do something different. And we need to cast a wider net. And we need to avoid the temptation of ruling ourselves out from the equation. So the appeal here is that every person who is tuning into this show, watching this, listening to this, to really think of what can I do? And if we're not sure, to say what that means is we really need to learn more. So the question is, are you willing to learn more about all this to figure out in the end what can be your contribution to this catastrophe, really? to really think of the numbers are that large, that 27 veterans a day lose their life to suicide, that is just remarkably distressing, and it's something that I think we can rally around to say it's not acceptable. We can't permit this, and we can't go on to say that we'll just kind of work at it. This is something where we need definite, predictable results. So Anna Maria Bliven, in the passion of all this, created a planning and set in motion our goal to go ahead and make sure that we are doing as much as we can in the few months ahead, at least from the point of when this was originally produced in November here, that February 22nd, it's what's out there is 222 to save 22. So it's to really build off of that successful promotion of the issue. And then right when we do the event, 222 to save 22, the immediate caveat is actually the number is unfortunately 27 veterans a day lose their life to suicide. So we are doing a call out to see who out there would be willing to organize an activity that would be resembled or connected, represented through Zoom to connect and be ready to share what's going on their side of the connection. With if it's a small group, an event that's just a home in a public place, maybe somebody getting many people around the world involved and having kind of a little description of kind of what we're accomplishing through their efforts in the Zoom connection, whatever it may be, to kind of say we got 22 allies, 22 locations around the world represented in organizing this event, and to do something marvelous. I personally am proposing a 22-minute program that we have a keynote and kind of a premiere presentation, feature presentation of 22 minutes, and have other things going on. We're going to have a drone ball drop. We're going to be sending up a couple hundred ping pong balls up into the air, and they're all going to have a number on it. They're going to be dropped down to a floor, and then there's going to be a target, and basically the ball closest to the target wins. And it's going to be a fundraiser to buy a number for one of those ping pong balls being dropped. And then we're going to have a smash party. And so the smash party is in a format where you're doing something physical to smash something to smithereens. And one suggestion in this is that it can be as simple as a box. Just make that statement. Let's smash boxes so that veterans don't have to live in them and such like that, as far as the homelessness issue. But even the exercise of the smash party is a tool for people to reach to. In part, they can make it part of their entire program of what they may be doing to cope with and deal with PTSD and so forth. You can get all your personal protective equipment on and grab that sledgehammer and swing that thing and smash and something that we have a group doing, through our friends out of World of Ability Podcast Network, Sue and Emily and myself and others. We do what's called the 12 o'clock shakedown, 15 minutes of music and motion. So this idea of 15 minutes of activity is kind of the format of a smash party. You do 15 minutes of that smashing exercise, and when the 15 minutes wraps up, then we transition to meditation, the calming, to just get solemn and to feel shalom and to just get tranquil and serenity and to just let all of that energetic stuff diffuse and to get ourselves as close to neutral as we can and just get real calm and cool, collected, and just very much at peace, and we just really get down to low energy and just really escape from things that may be pulling on us and just let stuff go. So a meditation practice. And so that's a half an hour of service that is going to be provided on that format, that part of the event on February 22nd. And that format's available today and every day, but we're going to be pulling in that format. We're open to other ideas in terms of what'll be available on February 22nd to make that day as eventful as possible, and so forth. So, and if possible, maybe through the worldwide community, maybe even having 22 hours of continuous activity, starting at different time zones and so forth. So, Barbara, what do you think of that? I'm thinking you've heard mention of this event before, right? You've heard about, and you are on mute again, Barbara.
Before I lost you for a little bit when all right, and I'm back, and first thing that came to my mind was Smashing Pumpkins, because I grew up with this little ditty that went, Peter pumpkin eater had a wife and couldn't feed her, put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well, and yeah, and these things, and I think, that causes like a lot of pain, when people don't have the money and feel like they can take care of each other, and men feel like they can't take care of their wives or their kids, that's a big source of pain. That's why we need to create, more community, more caring is sharing, which takes a lot of courage, especially to deal with people that haven't had, and there's got to be some pain and anger there, and so, when you see things come out, like I see people that haven't had power, because one friend, she had sickle cell, which is something that we definitely should be conquering. And, she grew up going to hospitals. Her mom didn't speak the language. She'd have to take like 3 buses to come where her kid's in the hospital. And my dad and she grew to be a poet and, a beautiful young woman, but we took her to this really expensive restaurant, and she started going like, "This glass isn't clean. Take it back and bring me a clean glass." And I started seeing another friend of mine who was in a position as a child of being powerless, and not being able to protect herself. And I watch how she'll do things like she keeps making people wait for her, and then when I think, oh, I know where this is coming from, it's that thing of not having power at one time, and people were not even totally conscious yet. But as we start, to understand why people might act ways that they act with compassion, we're building ourselves into stronger, more spiritual, more loving people. And, we can help each other heal. And how did I get there from people smashing pumpkins? And I'm thinking February, I don't think there'll be pumpkins. I think we have to go back to boxes, right? But I've heard, I talk about when women get together and the beauty and the power there. And I'm hearing from my man friend about when men get together, how healing that can be. And he was saying he kept having back pain, for a long time. And then in interacting with these other men, and they were doing something like boxing, some kind of and he said he was able to let all his anger come out, express this frustration and anger he had, and then notice the back pain went away. And yeah, so I think that's, my son, yes, thank you. I said,
You're welcome. You're welcome. So Sue, I wonder if you can help us out again. When I talked about Ability MKE Now, we were talking about the radio show, Riverwest Radio, and we have our friends Doug Cornfield, Dave Clark, and Dave Geis that helped us out for several months with that show because of our conflicting schedule and other things. And so we kind of took the Ability MK Now show and we brought through it the Pulling Each Other Along show. And it was a very dynamic experience. And so that's all available again at riverwestradio.com, going to shows, going to Ability MK Now. But that's all kind of stemming from a book venture. And so there's a Pulling Each Other Along book by Doug Cornfield, and has a lot in the story featuring Dave Clark, who is a gentleman who is the only professional baseball player who played from crutches. Imagine being a man with polio and being so passionate about being an athlete, and even within being an athlete, to play baseball, that you don't let polio get in the way. You don't let it get in the way that you maneuver around with crutches. And he goes out onto the baseball field using crutches to play the sport. And until somebody else does it, he is the only man to accomplish that feat, and phenomenal in doing so. But there is a Kickstarter going on right now, and with that, to help share insight, like with my telling a little bit of the insight, there's also a YouTube video that is available. Basically, Doug Cornfield sent it to me, and so Sue, I wanted to find out if you're able to grab. You might need more time, but are you able to grab some of those Kickstarter details to point out for us, how we take a look at the Kickstarter and the book and the YouTube video, maybe even doing a screen share and playing the YouTube video? You got anything coming up right away, or do you need more time?
I'll need a moment to look that up. And just so you know, Marianne is on here with us as well. Welcome, Marianne.
No way, Marianne's there. Marianne of Waikiki, aloha. Mahalo.
Aloha, birthday people. Celebrate good times, come on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm actually at a friend's house, and there's a birthday party going on inside, not for Sue, but for our friend's son. So that's what's going on right now. So yeah, it is birthday time. HMP really promoting their format of being able to have people share when their birthday is and be recognized at Happy Neighborhood Project worldwide. So we did the November birthdays. So if anybody out there has a December birthday, work with us to get listed with the Chief Happiness Officer, Edwin Edeberry, at our December worldwide main event program to be recognized with the hundreds of people that show up for those. So, but Marianne is our co-host of HMP Ability. What else is going on with you? What do you bring to the show today, Marianne?
Well, we're shifting to happiness, and thank you for having me here, Kurt. It's always a pleasure to be on Transform You Media. And, the weather's a little overcast, got some exercise in. We're getting down towards the end of the month, end of the year, and good things are going to happen our way. And so we're going to go out and play. So I have been invited to go sailing in San Diego. So I'm packing my bags and I'm setting sail. So I just found out. So, shift happens and a twist of fate. And I would like to talk to you after the program about it, the details. And all is well. Just getting some exercise, getting organized. And sent out my press release kits. I got to share that on the other side of the island with the beach with a bunch of Hawaiians, retired Coast Guards, people cleaning up the ocean, the press release kit. So Transform You Media is on there, Disability Channel, HMP Ability. It is done. So we need to get that out there. And I'm so impressed with that email that you sent me and the fundraiser, or I say a finraiser. You've raised almost $12,000. Impressive. And I can't wait to partner with you guys too as well. So just let me know what I can do is it the next 15 days? I need clarity on all this, but definitely want to wrap things up. and talking about you and H&P ability as well, because my sail bags are being packed and I may be at sea. Look at me. So go out and play a Marianne of Waikiki.
And a poet.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you for being here, Marianne. And yeah, in terms of the next 15 days, it's what I call the Give Me 5 program. So the idea is I'm asking you, Marianne, and you, Barbara, and Sue, and I, and Emily, and everybody. We're trying to give everybody give us 5 days between now and the end of November or however long it takes to get in the 15-day stretch. But every few days, to put a different message out there, different platform, mix it up, whatever, various ways to share this Kickstarter, the book, what we're doing here on podcasting, and basically what Doug Cornfield, Dave Clark, Dave Geis, and all this introduced to us through Dave Stevens, who is a 7-time Emmy award-winning broadcaster, and all this channeling through the Disability Channel. So it's really at the heart of what I'm doing as the ambassador of the Disability Channel. This is the moment of truth for me. If I'm worth my weight in salt, folks, we'll together get just several thousand people to set eyes on this Kickstarter program, the book, and the story of Dave Clark, and how they have these D3-day camps, and just the roster, star-studded celebrities, and just a lot of remarkable work to resemble this group of careers that is rallying around this, and in the idea of pulling each other along. Like, let's just think of this show, in the year plus that we've been doing the show, approaching a year and a half, in some sense, just through these Zoom connections, we've been pulling each other along, haven't we?
Yes, we have. So grateful for H&P.
Yeah.
Through. Look at all this creativity that we've done and networking. Amazing, amazing work. Yes. So fun to be on here.
So this is the crux of what we're trying to do. That's what the work is all about, is to really, through the stories and through the sharing, and there is what's authored through the book, pulling each other along, but it's really just to get spiraling into action, like with acts of kindness, and in other regimes there's random acts of kindness and so forth. It's a whole mantra of its own. So that's what's happening here, is we're kind of setting the foundation to really set this narrative, this mantra, this dialogue, this frame of reference, frame of mind, everything, and really look at pulling each other along, which in some circles is talked about as interdependence, and all of these types of things, reciprocity and so forth. Just a lot of wonderful effect on life that is coming out of this work. And so, Sue, have you been able to reference anything on that YouTube video to play it, and for you to verbalize the details of the Kickstarter, the book, and the story behind this group?
Well, for starters, I can pull up the video. Let me do a screen share with you guys, and we can play what they have put together here. And here it is.
When I lived in New York, I was wearing a little set of leg braces and walking with crutches. Once I started attending grade school, I was made to feel different. We had a field trip slated for first grade, and I was walking, maybe 5-6 blocks. I was deathly afraid of pulling the class up. Our teacher told us 2 weeks before this was going to happen, so for 13 straight days, I got anxiety, and I was getting nervous about this thing coming up. Day of the trip, one of my little first grade classmates, and I never forgot his name, Ernie Powell, pulled his little red fire wagon up, and he said, "Dave, jump in, I want to pull you." That changed that whole day for me, made it a fun trip, enjoyable, instead of the anxiety. It all washed away when Ernie brought his wagon up. Unknown to me, They have found him. Who's this to? Said Ernie Thomas. You found him. I can't believe it. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right, Sue, real quickly, you got a minute to win it. We are at the end of this show, but
A minute to win it.
Sorry. Say that again.
you got a minute to win it because we're at the end of this show. But with what you were preparing, I didn't want to cut you off from whatever you pulled up to the forefront. So you got a way to summarize what you all found there in about a minute.
Yeah, so they do have a link to find out more at pullingeachatheralong.com. And actually, I'm trying to think here if I am muted. Oh, you guys can hear me fine. So pullingeachatheralong.com/Kickstarter. pullingeachatheralong.com/Kickstarter. If you go there, you can find out a lot more about the book, about what they all have in store. And I think that's probably all I have for you right at the moment. That's going to be your best spot to start. pullingeachatheralong.com.
All right, perfect. So everybody, I am Kurt Roskoff, your host today. Basically, our co-moderator, Denise Vargas, needed today off. So we'll be back next week with Denise Vargas co-moderating and others of our regular contributors and maybe some new guests. So it'll be an exciting episode next time. And thank you for all of your activities on our YouTube and Facebook pages, subscribing to YouTube and commenting and giving reactions such as like and all of that. And same thing on Facebook for the World of Ability Facebook page for this podcast. And then with our group, I always say, it says right on there, it's for everybody. So feel free to email me anytime, Kurt, K-U-R-T, at thedisabilitychannel.us. And you can call and text me, 262-372-1SKI. That's 262-372-1754. And take a look at transformu.us and transformubroadcast.com. transformubroadcast.com/WOA for World of Ability, and Transform You Podcast, plural with an S at the end, transformupodcast.com. And when I say Transform You, the brand is just with the letter U, Transform, and just the letter U there. So that'll do it for today. Again, thank you for watching and listening, and please do share it with your friends, family, foes, neighbors, coworkers, whoever you can out there. Share the great messages we have going here at the World of Ability Podcast Network. Bye for now, and that's a wrap. Thank you, Emily Gulmer, producing today's show. Well done. Thanks for doing the podcast engineering. Emily Gulmer gets the credit. Bye for now. Record.